Well, hello everyone, and welcome to round number 4 of the REMUS GT3 Championship here on RaceRoom. My name is Connery Maddock, and I'll be your English commentator here today at this famous American racetrack, obviously playing host to lots and lots of fantastic racing in the real world, including IMSA, IndyCar, and so many other series that come here on a weekly basis here in the US. But we go for a primarily European competition this time around here in the REMUS GT3 Championship, as these GT3 cars take to the circuit for practice for the moment. But without further ado, let's have a recap. Let's have a listen as to what happened last time out at the Red Bull Ring. Round number 3 of the REMUS GT3 Championship here on RaceRoom is about to get itself underway. The first race of 2 goes green, and we see a jump start already by someone. I saw the notification, didn't quite see who that was as we ride on all the way up in towards turn number 1. Marco Page leading through turn 1 over Christopher Hergfeldt. He's got Tim Marshall in 3rd place with Alexander Dorden in 4th. Ben Spanky 5th place at the moment, as it looks like we're all clean. Taking opportunities here at the Red Bull Ring. It's more like down in towards turn number 3 and turn number 4. No! Ottaviani spins. I'll give 10 out of 10 for style. Here comes Luciano Vivo trying to go down the inside of Ben Dorr. It's Porsche versus Porsche through turn 3. He's just thought, oh, 3 points for me then. And now he'll challenge around the outside of Lucas Muller in through that middle sector. They almost banged doors between the two Bentleys. Coming up in towards turn number 7 now. Struggling to keep a hold of those cars. The cars feeling very wiggly indeed. Price continuing to hound the back of these guys. Trying to find a slot down the inside here in towards the penultimate corner. The two Bentleys are still door to door. Still making contact as well through the final corner. Crypto will be able to keep himself ahead. And what's not going to change either is Marco Page coming across the line to win this race. Race number 1 at the Red Bull Ring goes the way of Team Malmedie, and it goes the way of Marco Page. Reverse grid race racing here at the Red Bull Ring, about to get itself started. Louis Delatraz in pole position for Team Shmee. He's going to be able to get away not very well at all. He's been swamped off the start, as now Jack Keithley in the Bentley gets himself to the race lead with Florian Hasse in 2nd place. Andre Santos and Stalinstein in, well, fighting it out for P3 there, as you see the cars swarm their way through turn number 1. Multiple instances of 2 and 3 wide. A bit of contact deeper in the pack, as you see these Team Shmee cars now trying to break away from the rest of the Malmedie cars, going very defensive on the way up in towards turn number 3. James West is involved in all of this one, by the way. Bit of a rolling roadblock for Team Shmee, by the Team Shmee cars, to keep the green swarm behind them to P30. Oh my god, there's more instance. James West gave a muscle, spun around in front of traffic. Costa's also involved in this. Dornaden as well coming through on it right now. It's been a huge amount of chaos in the mid-pack. But Xi'an has been particularly impressive so far in this event. We'll see 3 wide on the way through the penultimate corner. There's contact on the inside between the two teammates there, as they all somehow squeeze their way through just fine. There was so much leaning going on between all those cars. It might continue on down the pit straight as well. More swarming, big moves being sent down the inside though. Was that Leonard Krippner just sending it down the inside of basically 2 or 3 cars there? I believe it might have been, and he's straight into the battle with one of the Corvettes here. Adam Pin says some drivers are just flat out better than others, you know. Oh, someone's gone off. Someone's had a big one, big spin through the exit of the final corner. It's Luciano Wittvoet. Jack Keithley got to the front early and simply did not look back. Jack Keithley wins race number 2 here at the Red Bull Ring for the REMUS GT3 Championship. Well, that was a pretty interesting affair last time out at the Red Bull Ring. Hopefully it's just as interesting here at Road America for round number 4 of the championship. Of course, we can just take a look at the point standings as they are right now. You saw it at the very end of the highlights video here, but you can see it again now with Team Shmee they are ahead on 1,611 points compared to Malmedie's 1,537 right there. So Shmee still maintaining the lead coming into round number 4 of this one. His drivers don't maintain the sort of drivers championship lead, however, because that is still Florian Hasse on the very top of the pile. If you're very new to this series, then don't worry, we will explain everything as it is right now. We have the entire field is separated out in towards 2 teams, Team Shmee and Team Malmedie. They're going head to head in terms of their points for the title there. There's also the drivers championship, which is where you can see the points next to the name of each driver. So there's going to be a separate championship with regards to that. There's even a separate championship as well with regards to guest drivers that will be joining us over the course of the season as well. And so there's multiple championships sort of in one championship. It's sort of the Russian doll of GT3 championships here. This one in the REMUS GT3 competition. But drivers still continuing out there in practice at the moment. What a fantastic race circuit this Road America circuit is. It's fantastic to drive, and well, we get to see some fantastic racing on here from time to time as well. Has a little bit of everything. It's you can also consider it a very classic circuit as well, especially with the lack of runoff that you have coming through some of these corners. So you put one foot wrong and then you can have that trip through the grass and perhaps going to be struggling to maintain control of the car. But of course, we will be able to get ourselves our track guide underway. This time it's not brought to us by Shmee himself. Instead, it's brought to us by Malmedie, of course, with English subtitles. Let's take a listen.
Herzlich willkommen auch von meiner Seite. Die REMUS GT3 Championship geht in die Runde 4. Road America ist am Start und wir fahren jetzt einfach mal eine Runde im Bentley GT3. Mächtiger V8 Sound. Das Ding ist sehr, sehr gut zu fahren. Ich habe schon ein bisschen geübt und muss ganz ehrlich gestehen, dass er richtig gut auf der Straße liegt und man kann auch mit ihm so ein bisschen querfahren, was natürlich für mich immer sehr, sehr wichtig ist, auch wenn das ultra langsam ist auf der Strecke, aber trotzdem, wenn die Bude dir einmal so quer kommt und du kannst ihn dann noch einfangen, dann finde ich es halt sensationell. Road America ist grundsätzlich eher für mich eine etwas langweiligere Strecke, weil es keine aufeinanderfolgenden Kurvenkombinationen gibt. Also es ist immer eine Kurve, dann gibt es wieder eine Gerade, dann kommt wieder eine Kurve, dann kommt wieder eine Gerade und du kannst dich jedes Mal, wenn du dich ein bisschen vertust, kannst du dich halt auf der Geraden wieder neu sortieren. Es ist nicht so, wie wenn du auf einem technischen Kurs unterwegs bist, der ein bisschen frickeliger ist, dass du, wenn du die erste Kurve verkackst, dass du dann die zweite und die dritte auch nicht mehr sauber hinkriegst. Ja? Deswegen ist es ein bisschen einfach. Allerdings ist die Strecke auch sehr, sehr schnell, hat auch so seine Tücken. Diese Stelle hier nämlich, das ist ganz, ganz brutal. Wenn du dich da verbremst, landest du auf jeden Fall da hinten im Reifenstapel. Ja, das ging, aber es war viel zu langsam, aber deswegen ging es halt auch. Ja? Grundsätzlich ist die Strecke halt ultra schnell und das macht halt auch dann doch wieder nicht so einfach zu fahren, weil wenn du schneller unterwegs bist, dann sind kleine Bewegungen am Lenkrad halt sofort mit einem riesengroßen Impact verbunden. Und jetzt sind wir hier in einem der spannendsten Abschnitten des Karussell. Original an Nürburgring angelehnt, würde ich mal sagen. Oh, bitte nicht raus! Nein, da ist er raus, da ist er raus. Traktionskontrolle hilft mir. Direkt nach dem Karussell einer der schnellsten Streckenabschnitte. Das ist das hier. Geht voll, fast voll. Irgend sowas in der Richtung, wenn du da abfliegst. Macht richtig Aua. Und es wird teuer. Ja? Hartes Anbrennen. Bin ich da noch dabei? Ja, da bin ich noch dabei. Also ganz ehrlich, es ist so krass, was ihr da an den Lenkrädern zaubert. Also ganz ehrlich, es ist so krass, was die Simracer am Lenkrad zaubern. Da kann kein normaler Fahrer mithalten. Und ich bin jedes Mal wieder begeistert beim Zugucken. So, eine Runde Road America vollendet. Ohne größere Unfälle. Und ich würde jetzt einfach sagen, Leute, Team Malmedie, ihr müsst jetzt liefern. Wir liegen hinten. Wir müssen Gas geben. Los, bitte los und euch viel Spaß beim Rennen. Eine Runde fahre ich noch.
Well, that was a track guide there with Malmedie himself, and well, he said it himself as well. His team really do need to step up to the plate here at round number 4 at Road America. They are behind by a relatively significant margin compared to Team Shmee coming into this one. So if they get a good result here today, then maybe, just maybe, they can make a challenge of it coming into the final couple of rounds of the season, as we see a little bit of an incident going on out there on circuit in practice. But of course, indeed, this is only practice, so it's not really going to matter in the grand scheme of things. But of course, you know, if we take a look at the schedule over the course of this season, we've already got 3 rounds done, 3 more rounds to go. However, you've got this one here at Road America, and then we head to probably the more interesting last 2 rounds of the season that I'll ever see. It's Bathurst at the end of this month on the 30th of November, and then we head as a grand finale to the circuit of Macau. So I'm going to be very interested to see how that one works out. It's a very, very tough street circuit indeed, is Macau, and well, Bathurst is a very, very tough circuit in its own right as well. So 2 very, very hard drivers' tracks to finish off the season. We do have to get Road America out of the way first before we get to that excitement. But it did seem that Malmedie kind of disagreed with me with regards to how fun this track is. But we'll just have to push that one aside for now and get into the racing here in just a handful of moments' time. We've got about 3 minutes here left of practice, so a little bit of time to get our bearings before we get ourselves started here for round number 4 of the championship. Of course, we've already had a Spa go by as the 2 Team Malmedie cars decide to have, again, a little bit of a issue here in practice. But yeah, we've had Spa already go by as our first round of the season. We had the Nürburgring, we had the Red Bull Ring. This is our first track outside of Europe, and we don't return to Europe for the rest of the season either, as we take the trip to Bathurst and Macau for the final 2 rounds here. So very, very interesting then to see how this one will work out between all of the drivers. It's been a very intriguing championship so far, perhaps a championship that's well, a type of championship that a lot of these drivers are perhaps not used to at this point, because yes, you do have a relatively normal 20-minute sprint race to start things off here today, but that second sprint race, another 20-minute event, that is going to be, of course, the full reverse grid race. And we've seen a lot of competitors fall by the wayside when it comes to that full reverse grid race. They just get stuck and they can't work their way back up through the field. And well, it does test a little bit of a different skill for the drivers in that reverse grid sort of situation. It's not just the clear air pace that wins you those sorts of races. It's the ability to be able to get past that slower traffic that had a poor race number 1 and therefore started a little bit further up the order in race number 2. So that's always the intriguing thing about this championship. It's great to see Shmee representing in the broadcast chat there. Of course, his team members are going to be in the blue cars here today. We've got the Team Malmedie cars. They're going to be in the green cars, so that's useful for you if you have not watched a round of this championship whatsoever at this point. It does seem that we only have Team Shmee cars out there in practice at the moment. The rest of the Team Malmedie cars are still on the pit lane, maybe getting themselves a bit of a team talk going to see what their strategy is coming into this one. Because yes, they've had some very, very fast drivers and some pretty good individual results. You know, they've got a number of race wins already to their name so far this season. It just needs to be that group result that wins the sort of team's championship here today. Well, here in this season. Because whenever we've seen the top 10s at the end of these races, we've seen always, well, more Team Shmee cars inside the top 10 than we've seen Team Malmedie cars for the for the vast majority of races so far this season. If Malmedie wants to turn the tide with regards to the head-to-head championship, then they need to solve that particular issue, and quickly. We've only got half of the races to go at this point in the season. So if you're going to try and turn things around, it's probably going to have to be now. But we get ourselves the practice session over and done with. We're going to be heading into qualifying here at Road America. You'll see all the cars very quickly head their way towards the exit of the pit lane, and someone already has had a bit of an incident there. Further back to the field, I think that was Sinyan Gune in one of the BMWs, I believe, for Team Malmedie, having a bit of an issue coming off of pit lane. That's not usually the place where you would want to have problems, let's just say that, but he'll be able to take the toe back to pit lane regardless, and it will be able to get back on circuit, albeit probably not with a good helping of cars in front of him, because remember, here in qualifying, especially with these very long straights at Road America, perhaps a little bit more beneficial than not to have a bit of a drafting partner ahead of you to be able to pull you around the circuit and get the best lap time possible. Some tracks that's not necessarily the case. Maybe you get punished from the dirty air and well, just by the fact the car ahead of you is probably a little bit slower than you than at some other circuits. But maybe here at Road America, you do want to find yourself a good group to run in, and well, the team situation really does help the drivers here, because they can rely on the fact that cars of their same color are going to help them out a little bit here in qualifying, at least more likely to do so than they would cars of the opposite color. Of course, Team Shmee are in the blue cars, Team Malmedie are in the green cars. How many cars per team is asked by our chat here? Well, the entry list says 14 cars per team, but that is not necessarily the case if you count things like guest drivers getting themselves started. But yeah, it seems like 28 cars in total. We only have 27 connected to the session right now, so maybe one of those cars has unfortunately not been able to make it here today. But of course, it's only the top 8 cars in each team that are going to be able to score points for their team. So each team can have a couple of cars drop down through the order, and it won't affect their points total. But of course, if your team has a particularly horrible day, it really does start affecting you in that way. But drivers heading their way across the line to start their laps right now, and well, let's ride on board here for a good couple of moments with your championship leader at the moment. This is Florian Hasse. So Florian Hasse is leading the point standings for drivers at the moment. He is part of that Team Malmedie car. Of course, his actual esports team is Door Esports, but of course those allegiances kind of go out the window when you're assigned to a different team. But for Florian Hasse, then, he's going to be heading his way down in towards turn number 5. This is going to be one of your main overtaking opportunities here today on the brakes into that corner. Got to be careful, though, on entry in particular, as things all do cluster up a little bit. Up the hill in towards turn number 6, just clip that apex nicely on the inside, use as much runoff as possible. I've already brought up the fact that the runoff is not well, not very useful here at this circuit. You're basically straight out into grass and gravel if you push a little bit too far wide, so it's self-punishing, I would say, in that regard. Now Hasse heading his way in towards the very winding right-hander of the carousel. The Americans call this 2 corners, turn 9 and turn 10, even though for any sensible person that is just 1 corner. Now in towards turn number 11. The King, very fast right-hander. We have seen side-by-side through there before in a good couple of rounds in other series, and sometimes it ends in tears. Here's another little overtaking opportunity in towards Canada corner for turn number 12. It's one of the trickier ones at the circuit, though, but if you do want to go for a move down into there, it is very possible. Now into the final couple of corners of the lap now. Through Bill Metro Bend and in towards turn number 14, the last corner on this circuit. Make sure you get the good drive off, and you'll be able to sustain the slipstream all the way up the hill, then across those grid spots to the start-finish line, and potentially in the race, you might even be able to make a move down in towards turn number 1 as well. So Florian Hasse getting a provisional pole position here at the moment, as the rest of those first lap times start to head their way through. Max Pfeiffer actually getting himself to the top of the qualifying order for now, as the rest of the complement of cars decide to head their way through to complete their laps here. Many drivers deciding to take the tow back to the pit lane and then do another out lap, and then another flying lap. Some drivers continue to remain out there. They feel that there's at least another lap good in terms of the tyre wear and the tyre operating window. So that's why you see some drivers decide to take the tow back to pit lane, some drivers deciding to remain out there for the moment. Hello everyone in the chat. Of course, I did see someone that's Benji's Garage Game Room. First time watching something like this. Well, Benji, thank you very much for joining us here in this one. Welcome to the world of, well, sim racing esports. It's a fantastic thing to get yourself involved in. If you ask me, it's well, just as good quality racing as you would see in the real world side of things. Just that no one has the possibility of getting hurt, I suppose, here in these sim races. You can see the left-hand side right now. They got the drivers that have set themselves qualifying times so far. 21 cars to be exact, but we've had a good complement of cars. Of course, we have 27 cars connected to this session, so we're going to have a good handful of cars that have not set themselves qualifying times just yet. One of them is this car of Alessandro Ottaviani, but he's gone purple through the first two sectors here. So this is looking like a very neat and tidy lap for the Italian. He's got himself a little bit of help from the cars ahead of him as well, his teammates, as he heads through the final corner, getting the double tow off both of those cars. So that is probably going to be one of the faster Bentleys out there today. Bentley, of course, known for its straight line speed performance as well, but across the line, that machine goes, and there we go. Ottaviani up into provisional pole position by only 7 thousandths of a second, by the way, compared to Max Pfeiffer's effort. So Ottaviani looking very, very good at this stage. Having a look at this massive train of Team Malmedie cars at the moment. They've all formed up together to try and get themselves the best lap time possible. It seems to be the overall strategy here, at least with the vast majority of circuits where we do have a significant slipstream factor. Florian Hasse in the middle of all of this one. Of course, he leads the Drivers' Championship at this stage on 225 points. Christopher Hergfeldt is the driver in second place in points. He's on 280. Well, he's in third place, excuse me. He's on 218. It's Marco Pejich that's in second place in the Drivers' Championship on 222. So this is what I was thought about with Hasse and Pejich in particular. Malmedie do have very, very strong individuals. However, I don't think they have quite the roster depth that Team Shmee has. It's you know, pretty good having a handful of fast drivers, but if the rest of your drivers can't step up to the plate, then in the end you're going to be losing points in the long run, especially if you can't consistently get those drivers in the realms of the top 10 cars at the end of these races. That's where I think Team Malmedie have been falling short so far this season, but we've still got half the season to go. Still, many things can change. The Team Shmee cars can have an absolutely horrible day here today at Road America. Then we're drawn either level or with Malmedie with a slim lead heading into Bathurst. That could be one set of circumstances we find ourselves in at the end of the day. The other times, sector times for Florian Hasse, he's been going very well indeed. Purple through sector 1 and 2. Sector 3, however, it could do or die, and across the line it comes. It is purple, but the lap time improvements have happened a little bit further back as well, because that train of Team Malmedie cars were going very, very quickly indeed, and it results in Emre Cihan, who is a little bit further back in that train, getting himself up into a provisional pole position. So that's a fantastic time there for Emre Cihan. Of course, he was the winner of the RaceRoom ADAC GT Masters GT4 Support Series Championship that concluded just a handful of weeks ago. So Cihan back to the front of the order here in this one. We haven't really talked about him that much over the course of this season, but it's good to see him stepping up to the plate for Team Malmedie here at Road America. How many drivers in total tonight, someone asks? Well, we've got 27 drivers connected to the session, 25 of which are able to set themselves qualifying times. But that is qualifying over and done with. Emre Cihan, pole position from Max Pfeiffer, from Alessandro Ottaviani, with Florian Hasser in 4th place, with Christopher Högfeldt in 5th, Matt Garsner in 6th, Ben Spanke in, Jack Heathley in 7th, Ben Spanke in 8th, Petter Bilska in 9th, Tim Yarshell starts in 10th here today. And that was one of the better qualifyings that Team Malmedie has had over the course of this season. They've gotten the majority of the cars now inside of the top 10, and that is probably the baseline that you're looking at to try and get a net positive over your rival in terms of points here in the sort of head-to-head teams championship. So Malmedie doing pretty well here in qualifying. Whether or not that translates over into the first race here today still remains to be seen, but that is a very, very big positive to be taking out of the qualifying session here at Road America. So fantastic stuff there for Team Malmedie. Of course, well, they'll be looking forward to having Team Shmee on the back foot coming into race number 1. Shmee haven't really been in that situation much at all over the course of this season so far. So for them to having to be chasing points in race number 1, certainly a situation that's been turned on its head compared to what we've already seen so far. So yeah, that set ourselves up for a pretty intriguing race number 1. Let's just have a little bit of a recap as regards to what the situation, what the format is for today. Of course, we get ourselves this first race coming up in, you can see the time at the top of your screen, in about 6 minutes time they'll start gridding up for race number 1. That will be a 20-minute event. Of course, you know, regular as far as races are concerned. You know, the qualifying, of course, you've just seen, they'll line up in that grid order. But after race number 1 and we head into race number 2, again, race number 2 is going to be still 20 minutes. However, we'll be having the grid set for race number 2 based on a full reverse grid on the results of race number 1. So if you finish last in race number 1, you'll be starting on pole position in race number 2. It's a very, very simple rule. You just reflect the grid upside down and you get yourself the starting grid for race 2. And that has been typically one of the crazier races of this season. It's in both Spa, in both Red Bull Ring, and of course at Nürburgring as well. Race number 2 has been particularly chaotic, especially on the start, where drivers feel the need to be able to improve precision as much as possible early on, lest they get stuck in the middle of the race, which is what we have seen have happened to a handful of drivers so far. So you don't want to ever get caught out in that situation, especially at a circuit where maybe a little bit later on in the season, where we go to Macau, we go to Bathurst, where it's easy just to get stuck behind a slower train of cars because there aren't that many overtaking opportunities. It's not really the case here at Road America. There's plenty of chances to get yourself through down in towards turn number 1, turn number 5. You can even have a couple of lunges in some other corners, you know, particularly Canada corner in the middle of the lap, as seems like these drivers may be doing practice starts here, which I do like to see, because we have seen a good couple of very sluggish starts so far this season. So it's good that the drivers have the presence of mind to get themselves onto the starting grid here and warm up and make sure that they can nail the start here. And it's going to be a pretty important start as well, because it is a relatively long run down in towards turn number 1. So any benefit on the start you're able to get will be exacerbated by the length down in towards turn 1. But the braking zone for turn 1 is not too massive. It's not too slow of a speed corner, so I think the majority of lunges that you'll see on the first lap will not even come until turn 3. It's more like down in towards turn number 5 where you'll see the vast majority of the action here. It's nice to see Moritz Lohner in the chat, of course. Well, many-time champion of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship, and It's great to see him there, and well, I absolutely agree, Moritz. Team Malmedie is looking reformed at the top here. They had a very, very, very good qualifying session indeed, which has been missing so far this season. You know, they've struggled to get cars inside the top 10. Yes, they've had cars win races. Yes, they've had cars get podiums, but in the end, it's a head-to-head teams championship. Of course, there is this background drivers championship going on as well, but with the teams championship, you need those cars consistently in the top 10. You need to have a majority of cars in the top 10 to really be making any good progress as far as the championship is concerned. And that's what Team Malmedie are hoping to do here in race number 1, at least, as they've got the better speed in qualifying. And as a result, have gotten themselves the better grid spots. But as we've seen, not just in sim racing, but most sports in general, things can be turned on their head relatively quickly. So they've put themselves in the best seat going forward, but whether or not that will reap the rewards still remains to be seen. That's the exciting thing about motorsports, isn't it? It's not over until it's over. We've got about 2 minutes left here before we get ourselves into racing here at Road America. Certainly a track that I very much like to race on, no matter what sim, be it RaceRoom or others. It's always a fantastic track to go racing round. Of course, Malmedie in his track guide video decided to disagree with me and just say it had no flow whatsoever, which maybe has a little bit of a point, but I guess I'm a little bit biased as to the fact that I've had pretty good results on this track previously, so maybe that's a little bit of bias coming in. Is this fixed setup or are setups allowed? Says Naomi there, I believe it is. And well, the setups are fixed for this series. So the only difference that you'll see between the cars are, one, the driver, obviously, and two, the exact make and model of car that they've gone with. So, you know, we have BMWs out here, we have Porsches and Corvettes and Mercedes and Bentleys. You know, there are differences between those models of cars, but with regards to each driver's car within those makes and models, you know, comparing Bentley to Bentley or Mercedes to Mercedes, they will be identical as far as setup is concerned. Of course, there is what we call balanced performance between all of the different manufacturers to make sure that everyone is on a relatively level playing field. Of course, every single esports driver and no doubt real-life driver as well in series that use this system will tell you that the balance performance is not always fully equal, but the race administrators do attempt to get everyone and all the cars around the same pace here. 10 seconds left to go before we get ourselves our gridding procedure underway. And I certainly can't wait for this race number 1 to get itself started. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm your English commentator for this evening for the REMUS GT3 Championship. Keith Lee finishes off the warm-up session with a bit of a slide through Canada corner before we get ourselves transitioned over into the race session itself. So there we go. We've gotten ourselves into the race session. Drivers will, of course, have a minute to be able to get themselves onto the starting grid. Of course, if they're not able to get themselves to the starting grid in time, then, of course, they will have to start from the pit lane instead, which is not not what any of the drivers would want to do. Not that that is usually a problem, although sometimes some mistakes are made. But we've got about, we've got almost everyone ready and raring to go here at Road America. I'm very glad that you can all join us for round number 4 of the REMUS GT3 Championship as everyone's getting themselves ready now. 20 minutes of racing for race number 1 in the REMUS GT3 Championship here at Road America is now underway. It's a great start from the Team Malmedie cars, all 3 of them at the very front, able to get away well as Ottaviani loses a position on the start there for Team Shmee. That Bentley's going to file a little bit further down in the pack as we head in towards turn number 1 for the first time here, side by side between the 2 teammates of Ottaviani. and Christopher Högfeldt as they head their way through turn number 1, in through the basically non-existent turn number 2, and in towards turn number 3. There's a little bit of contact deeper in the pack with many cars fighting for position further back there. But you can see the top 3 Team Malmedie cars trying to stretch their legs already in race number 1. They know how crucial it is to try and get the most points possible and capitalize on that good qualifying. You see Mark Garsner, he's basically the rolling roadblock for Team Malmedie at the moment, trying to keep all of those Team Shmee cars behind him. He's going to fight with side by side with Christopher Högfeldt coming through turn number 5 up towards turn number 6, and he keeps him behind. That was a great start there from at least the front Team Malmedie cars. The cars in the mid-pack had a good couple of issues that surrendered positions to the Team Shmee machines, as Högfeldt even looking behind at his teammate Benchmonkey. Whoa! He overcommits to the corner. He has to push wider. Allows Keithley back up underneath him and retakes the position in towards the carousel. Not what you want to see if your Team Shmee with this intra-team battling, especially as Team Malmedie currently holds P1, 2, 3, and of course P number 4 at the moment as well. So a pretty hectic first half a lap here as we head now through the little forest section on the way onto the brakes into Canada. Whoa, someone's had a big one. Big instant towards the very back there. Couldn't quite see who that was. It was Alexander Dornaden, who's backwards heading his way into Canada corner. He gets cycled back through the field. I didn't get to see quite what triggered that one, but Dornaden filed towards the back. That's a loss of points perhaps for Team Shmee, depending on how the positions will work out. But that was a big one there for Alexander Dornaden. Heavy impact with the wall. Damage is on, remember, for these races as well. So if he did tag the wall as hard as I sort of saw him, then he's going to try and limp around with damage. And yeah, it does seem like that car not maybe as quick as it previously was. So that's tragedy there for Alexander Dornaden. So we see the leading 3 Team Malmedie cars, but Ottaviani has been able to catch up that gap a little bit. He's going to try and get stuck in amongst all of these green cars in his blue Team Shmee Bentley, using the straight line speed. Whoa, he gets covered off by Florian Hasse down in towards turn number 5. He wrenches the inside open though. Still has a slight overlap here through the left-hander, but Hasse gets the better speed off the corner and is able to at least keep that Bentley behind him. But Ottaviani's not giving up these battles without a fight, that's for certain. He wants to try and recover some points for Team Shmee, who I think, as it works out, possibly losing points at this stage. At the moment, it is relatively hard to tell, but given that we do not have the live points totals, of course, and sometimes it's quite difficult to get into perspective with regards to exactly which team will be in front in terms of points gain at this stage. But with P1 through 3 and P4 for Team Malmedie, looking relatively good for them at the moment. We might even see a change at the front as well between Emre Can and Max Pfeiffer. They got to be careful about this one. They don't want to wreck each other out and lose crucial points for Team Malmedie, but that swap has happened. Emre Can is your new race leader at the end of lap number 2. So maybe that was a bit more of an orchestrated pass. We'll just have to see if Emre Can is able to pull away in the next 16 minutes that this race has yet to go. But across the start-finish line then, Emre Can leads from Max Pfeiffer, from Florian Hasse, from Alessandro Ottaviani, from Mark Garsner. As you can see, Ottaviani back in the picture, just showing the nose down in towards turn number 1. He's got Mark Garsner behind him, so he certainly can't be too overzealous with the moves here, unless he wants to come under threat from Mark Garsner behind. But Garsner falling just that little bit further back on the way in towards turn number 3. It says, Naomi says, who are the 2 Hungarian drivers racing for? I suppose you mean Adam Inces. He's racing for Team Malmedie. He's in the green Corvette that you see there. Martin Barner, he's also racing for Team Malmedie. He's in the one of the green Bentleys there, a little bit deeper in the order. So those are your 2 Hungarian drivers in this event. And they're typically very, very quick indeed. Not just in these cars, but anything in RaceRoom, and they have the capability to go very, very quickly indeed and be very competitive drivers. But we'll keep track of their progress as they're currently residing in the mid-pack. The very front of the field come down a little bit though, as it seems like Ottaviani's sort of yo-yoing all the way up in towards the back of Florian Haas's car, then drops off the back and then gets very close again. So not really the consistency required to be able to set up for a move here. Potentially might be seeing one at the very front on the way in towards Canada corner. Qian and Pfeiffer are still going to fight here. They have Drivers' Championship on the mind. Not so much the Team's Championship, as Pfeiffer, well, he had an attempt into Canada corner, but an attempt that did not result in anything. And, well, he maintains second place for now. But you got to be careful if you're Team Malmedie here. You can't afford to have overt fighting at the very front of the field, to have then Team Shmee cars of Ottaviani. You've got Högfeldt and Yarshall and Keithley be able to catch up to the back if you get back in towards the picture as far as the podium is concerned. That's the last thing you would want at this stage. Ottaviani looking all over the back of these guys still. He's feeling the pressure at the moment, perhaps, of needing to try and get through on these guys, needing to try and pick up a good couple of points for Team Shmee. He has all the slipstream required on the way down in towards turn number 5, but is he going to go for a move? There is going to be an attempt for the race lead ahead of him though, and that's going to bring Ottaviani back into the picture as he's trying to go around the outside of Florian Haas. Finds no success though. There's going to be fighting behind though between Gassner and Högfeldt, as Högfeldt looks to try and promote himself up another spot, but is not going to be able to get it done here, unfortunately for him. But has sort of dislodged Gassner from the very back of this leading train. Of course, the further away you get, the little bit less of a slipstream you get as well. Maybe that's all what's needed for Högfeldt to then try and capitalize on that one and get himself a 5th place in this race. Look back through the fields though. You've got Martin Barner here in the Bentley on the back of Michael Rachel. That might be something to be concerned about for a top 10 position as well. Here's another battle for the race lead though. Pfeiffer and Qian, they've been going side by side twice in a row, 3 times in a row through Canada corner, and this time Emre Qian still is able to keep himself ahead, but at the exact same time there was that battle for 3rd place going on as well between Hasse and Ottaviani. There might have been a little bit of contact through the corner as well, a little bit of leaning on each other, which is sometimes not considered kosher, but we'll see what the stewards have to say about that. I don't think it really impeded either of those two drivers that time around into Canada corner, but Ottaviani now getting pretty close here on the way in towards turn number 1. Gonna go for the lunge. It's a little bit too far back though. You basically need to be side by side coming on to the brakes there in towards turn number 1 to be able to make that move work. Högfeldt looking on the back of Matt Gassner as well as they head through the first handful of turns, now onto the back straight. Ottaviani continuing to capitalize on that slipstream he's getting from that Audi ahead, and well, it's going to force Hasse to go defensive here down in towards turn 5 as Ottaviani looks to try and go the long way around once again. Commitment on the brakes required, half an overlap, but it's still not enough, and Hasse's making that Audi the widest Audi out on this racetrack at the moment. He's doing very well in terms of keeping Ottaviani behind him, and of course that's crucial in terms of his championship as well, because Hasse is the championship leader. So he's wanting to maintain the good points finish for the moment. I do agree that it is extremely close at the front at the moment. That is certainly very fair to say. At this point in time, it's not really all that much between all of these drivers involved at the moment. Especially with these race leaders committed to trying to go wheel to wheel. Qian and Pfeiffer here is another attempt from Max Pfeiffer to get around his teammate for the race lead. Going to swing it around the outside once again. Careful with the track limits there, but it is Max Pfeiffer through on Emre Can. I have to wonder if the stewards are going to allow him to keep that one, because if you ask me, that was really a pass off the circuit. Freund Hasse and Ottaviani, that battle hasn't changed though. You can see how much that's ruined Xian's run through the final sector. That side-by-side moment is allowed now Hasse to perhaps try and squeeze by through on him. Hasse down the inside of his teammate Xian here for P3. Side-by-side through turn 1, and Xian gets pushed off the circuit, and this is what I meant by the infighting with Team Malmedie. Now it's getting Ottaviani involved, and as a result of all of that, Ottaviani's been able to get himself up into P3, and P2 doesn't look too far away either. So, yeah, Team Malmedie, well, Malmedie himself might have to have a speaking to his drivers at the moment, because the way they've been fighting in and amongst each other has allowed Team Shmee just to gain a few more points here. But Emre Can's going to try and come back out. Ottaviani here on the way up in towards turn number 6. There's a little bit of a squeeze from Ottaviani towards the inside, but allows Xian the space. But Xian gets into his right, into his rear left, and sends him into the wall. Oh, that's not how he would have wanted that battle to end, certainly coming off of turn number 6. Heavy impact for Ottaviani with the wall, and cycles him back down to P12. Well, if the stewards weren't involved already, they are now. Or they will be. That one's a little bit of a controversial one there. There's a very heavy defense there from Ottaviani towards the inside of turn 6, but the contact on the outside of turn 6, perhaps Emre Can's fault, but we'll have to wait for the stewards' review on that one. Meanwhile, Högfeldt and Yarshel are deciding to get themselves a battle wheel to wheel here as well. Through Canada corner they go. Lots of oh-nos in the chat. I think that's possibly the correct reaction to what has gone on there, and I had a big oh-no moment at the Red Bull Ring as well, with the spin from, I think it was Ottaviani as well, doing the pirouettes, 10 out of 10 style points situation like you saw in the highlights. But yeah, that's not how we want those sorts of battles to end, but it has resulted in now Team Malmedie P1, P2, P3 and P4. So that's the ideal situation for Team Malmedie. They've even got a car there back in P7 and P8 as well. So this is looking a lot better for Team Malmedie as far as a point situation is concerned. But of course, this is pending stewards' review, I suppose, here in this one. Of course, we'd rather things decided on track rather than decided in the stewards' room, as little bit of confusion on the brakes there heading in towards turn number 5. It causes Yarshel and Högfeldt to go side by side once again into turn 6. But Högfeldt will get himself clear this time around. Gustner trying to back all of these cars up, it feels like, at this stage. Trying to protect the points advantage that Team Malmedie has in this race so far. But of course that gets turned on its head when we get to race 2 and the reverse grid. Oh, careful Yarshel. Almost sticking one down the inside of his teammate there. We would have... It would have been absolute tragedy for Team Shmee to have another little bit of contact that sends a driver around here in this situation. Yeah, Lona saying it already looked like he lost contact, did Ottaviani, before the contact. I didn't quite see it. Of course, our replayability is limited here on RaceRoom, but the racing seems to be unlimited as Mark Gustner continuing to keep cars behind him at the moment. It is an impressive defensive display at the moment. It's great to see, and it's going to be a move to the inside for Högfeldt down the inside of the final corner, but he gets all sorts of out of shape. And it compromises his run down the straight now, and Petr Pilsker might be able to get a couple of free points here as he tries to drag alongside and gets the inside for turn number 1. But will he be successful at this pass? There's also a move going on ahead between Yarshel and Gustner as well. Högfeldt able to secure himself ahead of Pilsker though, so Pilsker was not able to get himself that pass done. We've got about 5 minutes to go here in race number 1. It's been an action-packed 15 minutes so far, but I can't believe it's been 15 minutes already since the very start of this race. We still have, well, the rest of this race and another race number 2, 20 minutes reverse grid to go. Continuing on the fights in towards turn 5, but Yarshel currently unsuccessful in trying to find any way past Mark Garstner. Garstner has just been absolutely crazy with the defense so far as Högfeldt on the inside loses control and he hits the barrier on the inside. Oh, and the rejoin is diabolical, straight into traffic. That is awful, awful driving from Christopher Högfeldt. I gotta say, I gotta call it out when that happens, but that was awful stuff. My word, I've never seen a rejoin that bad in RaceRoom competition, I have to say. That was awful. Like, if you want to have a example of how not to do a rejoin, that one was it. I think that one was it. That was terrible, but either way, we'll continue on the racing. Mark Garstner, Tim Yarshel looking to battle through Canada's corner, and Garstner continuing to be the widest Corvette that you've ever seen, not letting anyone by at this point. Yes, I get the feeling that will be a big penalty for that instant, for that rejoin there. That took out a good couple of cars. That's all I'm saying. I'm seeing a lot of names drop down further through the order as we'll see this slipstream affair on the way down in towards turn number 1 then as Petr Pilsker looks to the outside. We might even see 3 wide, potentially down in towards turn number 1. Nope, they're just going to be line astern for now. Yarshel in the middle of these 2 Malmedie cars for the moment, and well, I wouldn't say this race is necessarily boring at the moment because we do have still the battle for the race lead and still this battle for P4 as well between 3 cars, so definitely not boring as Tim Yarshel now looking to try and still make progress over Garstner. Let's see if Garstner can hold all of these cars behind him because he's been doing a fantastic job of it for the vast majority of this race so far. He seems impossible to pass, but Yarshel still giving it a good go. But no way through, looking to try and find the speed out of turn 5 into turn 6. Garstner defensive towards the middle of the circuit through turn 6 to make the options limited for those cars behind. Another little snap of the oversteer for Tim Yarshel, and well, we've seen a good couple of cars get oversteer out of that corner. It's caused 2 incidents already. The latest one, of course, we can talk about all day, but Yarshel now basically just trying to push the back bumper of Garstner through these corners here at the moment. Garstner's doing a fantastic job in holding position, holding on to that P4. It has caused a bit of a rift between this grouping of cars and the cars a little bit further down the road by a handful of seconds at this point. So it is holding these guys up, but for Team Malmedie, they won't mind as long as it's getting them the points. Couple of cars teasing with death as they head their way up through the grass, through the kink, and now still nothing doing as far as Yarshel is concerned. He is a very, very, very quick and accomplished driver indeed, but seemingly like there's no way past that Corvette at the moment. Garstner get a good run off of the final turn. I don't think he did, which is why he went immediately defensive to the inside there. That straight line speed of the Corvette looking very powerful at this stage, though. As soon as Yarshel dips out of the slipstream and attempts an overtake, it's just he just stalls out a little bit, and Garstner is able to continue with the speed down into the braking zone, which is maybe why it is pretty difficult to try and overtake Garstner at the moment due to the fact that he's just so damn quick, even when he doesn't have the slipstream. Another attempt required, perhaps, for Tim Yarshel. There's the battle for the race leads, though. That one's getting pretty close into turn 5. We are on the final lap here at Road America, so there's not a lot of opportunities to try and get yourself by. Here comes now Petr Pilsker. So Pilsker gets the overtake done on Tim Yarshel instead of Yarshel getting it done on Garstner as Yarshel sends it down the inside of turn 6. Still no success. Perhaps the opposite of it as he loses the position to Pilska there. 10 seconds left on the clock now, and well, it's been a great event. Great race number 1 for Team Malmedie. As the front two, yes, they are close, but in recent times they haven't been battling. Looks like Max Pfeiffer clear by over half a second at this stage. He's been able to get himself the buffer zone required to prevent the move from happening in towards Canada corner. Through that sequence of corners they go. Here's the grouping behind Gassner and Pilska. Well, Gassner and Pilska, they're going to go side by side into Canada corner. Surely not, as Tim Yarshall sent it on the inside at turn 5, battling for P number 5, and he's able to get the position done. That's a fantastic move there from Tim Yarshall. He wasn't able to pass Gassner all day, but he was able to pass Pilska at the very end. Max Pfeiffer, though, hit his way across the line to win here at Road America, race number 1. Here's the battle in behind. Pilska, he has a slipstream up towards the line there, but he's not going to be able to do anything with it. Tim Yarshall recovers only just into a P5, but look at how many Team Malmedie cars you have inside the top 10. Max Pfeiffer, Florian Hasse, Emre Cian, Mark Gassner down to P4. Then you have Per Pilska and Martin Barner P6 and 7. That is a very, very good points haul there for Team Malmedie. Great stuff indeed. That's exactly what they needed as far as the championship picture is concerned. They were around about, what, 40, 50 points behind in the championship. Could have made up that difference in this race alone, but we'll get to see how race number 2 turns out. That's where things can all change, certainly, with the reverse grid. Just waiting on those race results to appear, and then we'll get ourselves sent in towards the warm-up session. In between the 2 races here today, of course, 2 20-minute races here in the REMUS GT3 Championship. I believe, working out mentally, Malmedie have, well, basically come out on top as far as race number 1 is concerned, but race number 2 still yet to come. Reverse grid maybe works into the favor of Christopher Högfeldt, because as a result of that big instant, he completely smashed and totaled his car, but kind of gains out of it because he'll now be starting on pole position for race number 2. So that is at least a positive you can take out of this one if you are Team Shmee, is that you'll have a car on pole position for race number 2, able to secure you those points. There we go. They're the official race result. Well, they're not really official, unofficial race results pending stewards review. Max Pfeiffer wins from Florian Hasse, from Emre Cian. Then there's Mark Gassner in 4th place with Tim Yarshall in 5th. Peter Pilska in 6th with Martin Barner in 7th. Ottaviani in 8th with Michael Raschel in 9th. And Luciano Wittvoet rounds out the top 10. You can see how many green Team Malmedie cars are inside the top 10 there. Fantastic stuff. It's a mid-pack dominated by Team Shmee cars, though. Well, we got a Silvandre Santos, Julian Kunze, Rodriguez. You got Costa there further back through the order as well. And then you have names further down the order. Jack Heathley, surprisingly, P15 at the moment, with a good couple of names. Spence Bankier and Pinces Dorneden a little bit further back through the order. But that is race number 1 in the books then here for the REMUS GT3 Championship. We'll just take a couple of moments just to make sure that we can get ourselves into the second race here today. But what a crucial race that was for the Team Malmedie machines, as they got themselves the points haul required to be able to get their season back on track. And well, it was certainly needed. I mean, I was talking about it in the pre-race show in particular, where I said that these Team Shmee cars really, or rather, Team Malmedie cars really needed the good result here today to make sure that the championship is as competitive as possible. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me in the chat so far. What a race, says Nick Reed. What a race it was as well. I get the feeling I'm destroying my voice again, just like I did last week. So yeah, that's an issue that we'll just have to just have to work through. Shmee seeing says, "Oh my, too many Malmedie cars inside the top 10." Yeah, not looking too great for your boys at the moment, Shmee. So let's hope, at least for your sake, that they have a relatively decent race number 2 here. Naomi saying, "Fun race to watch." Yeah, I do indeed agree with that one as well. Just to recap, of course, we get ourselves a full reverse grid race here for race number 2. So those drivers that finished at the very bottom of the order in race number 1, they will get themselves the better starting spots for race number 2. So that's the situation here. But the race length does not change, however. It's still 20 minutes. Usually, in reverse grid races, you would see the second race be a little bit longer, but not so here in this series, however. So it's a little bit different compared to what we're used to seeing as far as reverse grid races are concerned in not only sim racing, but of course in the real world side of things as well. So it just adds to the pressure. Adds to the pressure indeed for those drivers that get the bad end of the reverse grid in race 2. They don't have as much time to be able to work themselves through as they would do otherwise. So as we get ourselves into the warm-up session then for race number 2, and well, gives us a little bit of a breather after what was the relative chaos of race number 1. And, well, hopefully we don't see as many incidents here in race number 2 as we saw in race number 1. But that being said, with a reverse grid race, you have to say probably the incident's going to be a bit more likely, which is a concerning prospect, but we'll have to work our way through it as appropriate. Sure what you mean there, Group N. Not sure what you mean. Well, I know that incident with Qian was a little bit contentious. He was the driver that, of course, got into the back of the one of the drivers towards the very front there, Ottaviani it was, and spun him out through turn 6. I don't have really the steward's decisions immediately to hand. I think most of them, if not all of them, are done after the race instead of during the race. But I will have to check that one for you. I've seen nothing come through at the moment, but again, just remember that sometimes these things get sorted after the race rather than during the race. The Mercedes-AMG GT3, it looks amazing, says Firewaffle. Yeah, it does. It is a very, very nice race car indeed. I had the pleasure of listening to these cars when I went to see Blancpain at the Nürburgring, as they had these cars competing in and amongst the Lambos and everything like that. But I think the AMG Mercedes was certainly one of the better sounding cars of all of the GT3s. It just has this low grunt as it pulls itself around the circuit. Of course, you know, it's an acquired taste, I would say. But I do really love that sort of deep growl that the GT3 Mercedes has. It really sort of shakes your bones when it goes by on the circuit. So yeah, I do very much enjoy those cars. The other ones, of course, you know, I think it's the GTE Porsche, the RSR. That is loud for a different reason. It's loud more in a high-pitched way rather than a loud grunt way than the Mercedes tend to be. Two and a half minutes then before we get ourselves into race number 2. Of course, full reverse grid in effect, so we'll see Christopher Högfeldt get himself up onto pole position for Team Shmee for this one. There's a good complement of Team Malmedie cars actually at the very well, they're going to be benefiting from the reverse grid here, as they're as it was a very big split for Team Malmedie. You had a grouping of Team Malmedie cars at the very front, getting themselves some crucial points, but you also had other Team Malmedie cars not have as good of days towards the bottom of the order. Maybe they'll be able to try and capitalize on race number 2 instead, but we'll have to wait and see. Firewaffle says, yes, the 6.2 litre V8 naturally aspirated engine sounds great. Yeah, it does. It sounds fantastic. If any of you ever get the chance to see these category of cars on any circuit, and you get to see the Mercedes in particular, you just listen out for it. You really can't miss it. It does sound quite different compared to most of the other GT3s. Lambo doesn't sound half bad either, but we don't have Lamborghinis in this race, so or Ferraris. So those two tended to sound pretty good as well. But yeah, the Mercedes is pretty high on the power rankings of sound. Just 1 minute to go before we get ourselves our grading procedure underway for race number 2. And Team Shmee recover a good points finish out of turn number 2, not out of turn number 2, out of race number 2, because of them hemorrhaging points somewhat in that first event that we've had here today. Of course, they've had the lion's share of the of the good results so far this season. Maybe not the race wins to their name, but certainly the consistency of finishes as part of the entire team, certainly going their way at this point. Just a handful of moments to go. I'm very glad that you're all able to join us here for round number 4 of the REMUS GT3 Championship. Our final race of the evening is about to get itself going. We had a very exciting race number 1. Hopefully that translates into a very exciting race number 2 as well. In the end, the racing is what gives us the entertainment. Doesn't really matter too much who comes in P1 unless you're a fan of any particular driver or team. But drivers getting themselves to the starting grid now. We'll have a maximum of about 50 seconds to be able to get that process completely and utterly done. And then we'll be racing here for the second time at Road America. Our 8th race of the season. How about that? Looks like everyone getting themselves ready now. Of course, you have that complement of Team Malmedie cars towards the very back of the order this time around, due to just the sheer amount of cars they had inside the top 10. But of course, you have Team Shmee competitors at the very front as well. Team Malmedie competitors at the very front as well, in and amongst those Team Shmee cars. Let's see how race number 2 turns out here at Road America for the REMUS GT3 Championship. It is indeed underway. Lucas Muller from that front row gets a pretty good start, slots in behind your pole position sitter on the way down and towards turn number 1, ducks back out of line again, tries to look around the outside and towards turn 1, the battle between the 2 race leaders. It looks like Hoodville's going to come through on that one. Okay, there's a spin in the background. Leonard Krippner is around and has caused a little bit of contact behind as well. Multiple cars around out of turn number 1 as we return back towards the very front of the field there, as Hoodville was able to hold off the hard charging Lucas Muller there at the very start of this one. But he still has a lot of work to do to try and maintain that P number 1 here, as we'll see side by side for P5 between Alexander Dornaden and Adam Pinsez here on the way down in towards turn 5, as it looks like Adam Pinsez trying to, it was Dornaden gaining the position there for Team Shmee. Team Shmee know how crucial it is to get themselves positions here, to get themselves the points required to stop the bleeding here at this event in particular. They've had pretty good starts up and down the field so far, steadily working their way through on the cars that had benefited from the reverse grid, but Högfeldt still maintains the race lead for now for Team Shmee. Marco Pejic in second place is certainly a very big contender as well. So if you're Högfeldt, you don't want to be feeling too secure as far as the race lead is concerned, because you have second in the championship right behind you, and that is certainly an interesting predicament. Looking back further, you got Ben Sparky, Lucas Muller looking to try and get pretty close for P3, but of course nothing happening down in towards Canada Corner. There's some, might be some attitude of maybe just taking a little bit of karma here at the very front, at least for the opening portions of this race, due to the amount of chaos that we've seen elsewhere through the field. Speaking of, lots of stacking up down through there as we're seeing tracking the progress of the top placing Team Malmedie cars from race number 1. Brian Hasser getting through on a couple of cars. You got Mark Gassner there, Martin Barno, Max Pfeiffer, Emre Cihan. Emre Cihan is actually might have been involved in a bit of an incident here, because he's starting to drop off the back of the train for the moment. So that was one of your top finishers from race number 1, cycling back through the order there, or rather dropping off the back of the order. Were indeed super unlucky there. Yeah, there's not much you can do when you have a car that spun round and comes back into traffic there, as we'll see Adam Pincez really involved in the thick of things here, in amongst all of those Team Shmee cars. He is the lone Team Malmedie Corvette in this battle, as trying to fight with Keith Lee. Vermeulen's involved in this one. You got Dornaden a little bit further down the road as well, as he's trying to go around the outside of Jack Keithley. Yeah, sparks fly as they go up over the curb. Pincez slots in behind Keithley though at this stage. So in terms of the state of points for each team, you have Team Shmee P1, Team Shmee P4, 5, 6, then 8, 10, 11. So it's looking okay for Team Shmee. This is probably one of the calmer starts of race 2s that we've ever seen. I'm actually kind of surprised it's been this calm. Of course, there's always the danger in saying that as a commentator, but yeah, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised with how respectful so far things have been. Of course, we had that incident in through turn number 1, which wasn't ideal, but apart from that, we've had some good racing. There's some good racing between the two teammates of Rachel and Vitvo for P13 back there as well. So Rachel up into P13 with that pass over his teammate. Remember, these drivers do have individual drivers championships to be concerned about as well in this one. So not only are they fighting for their team, they are also fighting for themselves. So that adds a little bit of an extra element to the racing. Towards lap number 3 now. You can see that, well, the front couple of cars are trying their level best to try and get themselves away at this point, because Christopher Högfeldt has been able to gain about 9/10 of a second back to P2, which is pretty good going, and that gap is actually extending all the time here. So Högfeldt trying to run away with things, trying to score this race win for Team Shmee. But we'll see what Pejic has to say about that one. A little bit further back, we've got Julian Kunze and Leonard Karten going wheel to wheel through turn 5. Karten maybe struggling with a little bit of oversteer coming off the corner, allows Kunze to try and come back at him up in towards turn number 6. Hasn't got the overlap to be able to do so though. Karten quite shallow off the corner, might allow Kunze an opportunity as he cut the course there, cut the curb. There's a little bit of dirt thrown up into the air there. Not quite sure who that was by. Karten with a compromised line now up towards the corner before the carousel. That was turn number 8, and it will allow a side-by-side moment through this winding long right-hander. Kunze trapped on the outside, certainly not the faster way around there. As Santos clips the curb, and Santos might has a big incident with the wall. Yes, he does. An error for Andres Santos, spits his car into the concrete, and now he has to wait for the rest of the cars to come through, has to rejoin in an appropriate manner, just about gets it done, but in dead last for Andres Santos. That was an unforced error that sent him into the wall and sent him towards the back. Big impact there. That's the sort of impact where you're pretty glad that we're doing this in the virtual world rather than the real world, because that would have been a terrible accident if we were racing in real life. But it's Lukas Müller then trying to defend from Benz Bunky into turn number 1. Bunky swinging it out there, has a slight advantage into the corner, has to use the run-off to try and complete the move, maintains the overlap into turn 3, maybe looking for a bit of an up and under, but Dornaden down his inside there, just didn't allow him to try and carry the momentum through the apex of turn 3. So that's why you saw Ben Spunky was just a little bit hesitant to actually turn into the corner there, feeling that his teammate in the Bentley was just a little bit too close and he was fearing cutting off his nose. Lunge into turn 5? No, that is simply way too far back to be thinking about a move from there. This open setup? No, there are no open setups here. It's fixed setup, so at least all the different manufacturers, well, amongst themselves are identical. So all the Bentleys are identical to each other, all the Mercedes are identical to each other, all the Corvettes are identical to each other, and so on and so forth. So really different things are the manufacturers and the drivers. And Spanky trying to get a good run out of the kink to be able to make a move down into Canada corner, but not going to be successful this time around. Just going to stick in line. He has a lot of help behind him, but as we've seen so far, at least in this championship, it doesn't seem for some of the drivers that the team allegiances really mean anything into this one. As we saw lots of side-by-side battling for the race lead between the two Malmedie cars in race number 1. And of course, even at the Red Bull Ring and the Nürburgring, we've seen lots of intra-team fighting, shall we say, here in this series. Müller might have to put on another defensive effort here in towards turn number 1. He's moved to the inside again preemptively, and well, another attempt around the outside for Bunky. Another attempt that hasn't quite worked out, but maybe he's a little bit closer this time in towards turn number 3 than he has been. They're absolutely level coming through the right-hander. Now Dornaden is on the outside looking into this one as well. He's trying to push his teammate to get the position done and up into P3, but now Lukas Müller, you're seeing him lose the positions. The bump drafting working on the left-hand side of the circuit for those two Team Shmee cars. Both of them get the overtakes done. There's a little bit of contact from Müller to the back bumper of Dornaden as Müller forces his way down the inside at turn 5. Now has the advantage with the preferred line into turn 6. Müller keeps himself ahead of Dornaden. Dornaden looking for the line coming off the corner, though. You can see with the onboard as he's trying to hound the back of that Corvette once again. He's not too happy with how that Corvette got itself back past there. That I would be particularly a little peeved about that as well. Dornaden trying to wheel that car through the carousel. See the tapping of the brakes going on for Lukas Müller as well. As you can see that as soon as Bunky got past Müller there, Bunky has just said bye-bye to everyone. So it seems like everyone's getting stacked up behind Müller here. Everyone wanting to try and get by as quickly as possible. There might be a bit of confusion here down on the brakes in towards Canada corner here as we see the Bentley go around the outside for Team Shmee, looking for the cutback off the corner, looking for the speed. Müller is forced a little bit wide, maintains the position. There's a little bit of contact to the rear bumper as well. Things are getting a little bit too close for comfort here in amongst all of these cars. As Dornaden again struggling with a bit of oversteer. We're only halfway through the race. Now sitting in slipstream as Dornaden also has to be worried about Jack Keithley behind. Keithley as his teammate, but looks like he's just tucked up in the pressing the back bumper, pushing Dornaden along the racing circuit. So Keithley showing no threat at the moment as far as Dornaden is concerned. But here's the battle for the race lead then. This one has been strung on us all of a sudden as Högfeldt's trying to hold on to position, hold on to the race lead, but he simply is not able to do so right now. Marko Pejic is your new race leader as Christopher Högfeldt drops back inside the slipstream, looking to try and make a move here. But is this going to be a successful one into turn number 5? It's one of your main opportunities to do so. He swings that Corvette out wide around the Porsche, bit of contact through the middle of the corner, and Pejic keeps his gained position on the way up into turn 6. That one happened all of a sudden. I thought Högfeldt had a couple of second gap back to Pejic, but that had been all gobbled up in a very quick fashion by Marko Pejic, who now leads this race, and it's crucial as far as his championship is concerned as well, because he's fighting directly with Högfeldt for the championship. He's even fighting with Hasser as well. Hasser is quite far down the order at this point, so he's down P15, yeah, so that's might be a change in the championship. Lucas Muller, bit of contact through the carousel, forced down onto the wide line. Keithley and Pinces are back through, and well, Vermeulen, wow, Vermeulen went out very wide, almost hits the tyre barriers, careful with the rejoin, almost collects his teammate there of Julian Kunze. Now Pilsker might have the speed as Pilsker runs around the outside, well, Kunze, excuse me, runs out of road, coming through the kink, and that is Pilsker through. So that is just one thing leading to another. They're side by side for the race lead once again here in the second half of the race. Marko Pejic on the defensive this time around, as Högfeldt looks to try and get the speed off the corner down the pit straight. Then we've got a bit of a titanic battle for the race lead, perhaps in the final 7.5 minutes that this race has left to give. As you can see, Pejic going to the pit wall, now trying to squeeze Högfeldt on the outside a little bit. They get very, very close. The run stalls out a little bit, though, for that Corvette. Trying to find the inside, coming off the corner. They lean on each other, coming through the exit, but everyone's able to keep it together. That was a little bit naughty there from Christopher Högfeldt, getting into the back of Pejic, but everything is able to continue on. They keep it on the grey stuff. This is going to be a pretty insane fight for the race lead from this point forwards. I get the feeling 7 minutes for these drivers to sort out their differences. We'll have a little bit of a break from that battle for now, because we do have to look and see what's going on for the battle for positions just inside and outside of the top 5. Jack Keithley having 2 Malmedie cars behind him at the moment, forced to go defensive into turn 6. But that is a very low probability move to be making into that corner regardless, but you still sometimes feel the need to try and defend that one as a driver. So Müller continues to fall further back through the field here. He did, of course, benefit a lot from the reverse grid, and well, he was front row. But of course, you know, as a car that's a little bit slower in terms of the race pace, of course, is going to eventually fall further back through the order. So continue to have a look at your 2 race leaders. Here's the onboard then with Christopher Högfeldt. He's going to try and commit around the outside here. Pejic is going to give him just a car's width of room. That's all you really need to give, to be fair. And the status quo is maintained in this battle, but I get the feeling there's still yet more to come here in this one, that's for sure. Marko Pejic, of course, it was a fantastic drive for him to get himself up into this position, but now he has to try and hold on to it. Here's the view from the rear bumper as Högfeldt just closes in on the way down the back, down the front straight here, and then pulls to driver's left-hand side on the way into turn 1. That's not usually the opportunity you would go for unless you are reliably able to carry the momentum through. And it looks like Christopher Högfeldt he now has a slight overlap in towards turn number 3, which is the preferred line through here. He gets a car length ahead. He regains P number 1, but this one is just not done. I get the feeling this is just the start, because Marko Pejic, he's tucked right back into the slipstream here. He's going to have a look and try and make a response on the way into T5. He'll dive back to the inside. A bit of a dummy move, but he's overcooked it through the middle of the corner, and Högfeldt's able to slip back underneath him. Fantastic driving there from Högfeldt, knowing the danger of a big move down the inside there. Just wait for that driver on the inside to overcommit, slip yourself back underneath and regain the position. And you can see how hard Pejic is trying to drive that Porsche at the moment with the going wide out of turn 7. Fantastic move there. Fantastic response from Christopher Högfeldt. He's now gained about 0.8 of a second, and what helps Christopher Högfeldt now is that Benz Barnke is starting to get inside the picture there. You can see him in that AMG Mercedes from Team Shmee trying to bear down on that P2 Porsche. This might become a 3-car battle for the race lead rather than a 2-car affair. Maybe even 4-car battle if they all slow each other down and Dornaden starts gaining time on them. But we are getting into the final minutes of the race now. Coming up to 3.5 minutes to go. Just a handful of laps to sort this one out. Third is indeed back in the battle. That is Ben Spanky. Going to be a little bit tougher for him to work his way by on Marco Page. Page still has the some slight remnants of the slipstream further down the road as Högfeldt tries to completely break that and try and run away with this race win. Banki's going to pull himself back into contention here. He's going to look down the inside. No, just a show of the nose. That's a move that usually tries to force the driver ahead of you to try to make a mistake. And well, Banki very fast through the first two corners here. Högfeldt is starting to get away bit by bit at the very front now. 1.4 seconds is the gap back to P2. So this might have to be a battle for P2 instead of the race lead between Banki and Pajic this time around, as Banki looks to go the long way around at 10.5, looking for the cutback. Nothing doing in that situation. All this is doing, though, is losing time to the race leader. Högfeldt's able to try and get himself away from all of this to secure a very comfortable race win. Banki's doing all that he needs to do at this point. Another little switch down the inside before the carousel through turn number 8. Now into turn number 9, a carousel. Banki continuing to try and wheel it around the long way. It's so tough to do at the carousel because you're losing ground all of the time unless you have a massive grip advantage. Banki doesn't have that though. Has to remain behind through the kink, and now Pajic always looking in his wing mirrors for the next move down the inside of down the outside of Canada corner. It's going to be for the Mercedes over the Porsche. Again, nothing coming off that corner either. This battle's just going to continue, and look at the gap now to the race leader, 2.5 seconds. This battle's losing them so much time to the race leader, so Högfeldt looking pretty comfortable at this stage. It's just going to have to be a fight for P2 for Pajic to hold on to some points for Team Malmedie. The weaving down the pit straight starts here as we cross the line. I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe this is final lap here. It was very close with Högfeldt ending his way across the line that time by. But here comes Ben Spanky around the outside then once again. But perhaps the final time in towards turn 1 still can't get it done. You got Alexander Dornaden, the third party in this battle as well. You got Keith Lee and Pincez also fighting in behind too. Team Shmee doing their best to try and recover points here in race 2. All the points that they lost in race number 1. Pajic has a little bit of a buffer here heading into T5. Banki can show the nose all he wants, but in the end, Pajic perhaps knows that no move is on into that corner. 30 seconds to go left on the clock here. Högfeldt with the 2.5, over 2.5 second gaps, 2.7 in the race lead. This needs to be a very neat and tidy middle sector for Banki and Dornaden for them to be able to challenge Marco Pajic here in the very dying moments of this race. We've got 10 seconds to go. That's confirmation basically that this is indeed the final lap here at Road America for the REMUS GT3 Championship. Round number 4, race number 8, about to draw itself to a close. Banki not close enough, I don't think, on the way into Canada corner to really be able to do anything at this stage. This battle has fiddled out for the podium positions, so we will have just a chance to try and have a look at your race leader, Christopher Högfeldt. It was the definition of an up and down day for the Swede. He was dead last in race number 1, but pole position for the reverse grid means he's in prime position to get himself a race win in race 2, and that's exactly what he has done for Team Shmee as Christopher Högfeldt wins race 2 here at Road America. Fantastic stuff indeed. The rest of the runners steadily heading their way across the line now. Of course, Pajic was able to hold on to P2, Banki in 3rd place, Dornaden in 4th here today. Looking back through the field, we've got side by side across the line between Vitvote and Qian. Vitvote coming out on top in that one, but it was a Team Shmee P1, 3, 4, 5 at this point, and they've got P9, 10, 11 as well. Not sure if that was as good of a result as Malmedie got in race number 1, but certainly something that stems the bleeding just that little bit. Everyone on their cooldown now. Just well, all these drivers tend to be in the same Discord channel as you know. I am on the official server for that, and you know I can see everyone in there right now. No doubt there'll be some congratulations going on, especially to Högfeldt for winning that race. And well, we'll see how the points line up maybe in a couple of days' time once the points get officially announced on the RaceRoom and the REMUS social media accounts. Points out, great performance from Pfeiffer from 27th to 14th. Yeah, fantastic stuff for Pfeiffer. Hasse having a good day as well from near enough the back to P13. We've also got Ottaviani doing pretty well, P9. Emre Can gaining a couple of spots from the back of the grid as well, P17. But there's the unofficial race results then. Well, here, race number 2 at Road America for the REMUS GT3 Championship, round number 4. Christopher Högfeldt wins by a good few seconds over Marco Pejic, with Ben Sparky in 3rd place, Dorneden in 4th place, Jack Leithy rounds out the top 5, Pinces in 6th, Pilska in 7th, Muller in 8th, Ottaviani 9th, and Kunze will round out the top 10. The rest of the runners are cycling through on your screen right now. You see decent result for Team Shmee, mixed result for Team Malmedie in race 2, but they'll be riding on the high of their performance in race number 1. But unfortunately, everyone, that's going to be all that we have time for here today in the REMUS GT3 Championship here on the English stream. My name has been Connery Manick. I've been your commentator for the English stream this evening. And, well, of course, this is certainly not the end of the championship. We still got 2 races to go. We've got 30th of November. We'll be heading to Monaco on a hill, I call it. We head to Bathurst. And then for the final round of the season, the 14th of December, we head to the street circuit that is Macau, which is going to be a very, very exciting season finale. But Bathurst in a couple of weeks' time, everyone. I'll be here for it, but for now, I will have to say goodbye and good night.